What's good, everybody? Welcome to Lactic Acid. As you see, got the little brace on, a little pain in the wrist, but we're going to power through. Welcome to Lactic Acid. Welcome to the platform. My name is Dominique Smith, and I am the host of it all. And this is Track Talk. This is Track Talk. I put this in about a couple weeks ago. First guest was Matthew Parker, and the other one was a recap of a track meet that I went to, a very, very good track meet, high school track meet down here in the state of Florida and Orlando specifically. It was the district championship meet at Lake Highland Prep. Be sure to check those two out. But pretty much the goal of Track Talk is we're just talking track. It's like the advanced topics in track and field. Flying solo today, but I am excited because there's a few things that I want to say, want to share, and want to discuss. Now, this Track Talk series will specifically and exclusively be on YouTube. I haven't decided if I want to branch out and share it to Apple and all that stuff. I probably will, but to start, you can only get it here on YouTube. And if you haven't, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel Lactic Acid with Dominique Smith. I would really appreciate it. There's a lot of cool content, and there's some exclusive content that you can only find. We're going to be launching these videos. Listen, World Championships is just around the corner. I can't believe it's May. It's crazy. Christmas is almost here, and I'm so thankful for that. Hopefully some cooler weather soon, because it is hot out here. It's a nice day today, but it is blazing. And you know what else is blazing? The track times. A few things on my mind. High school track and field, man, we're reaching the state championship here in Florida, and I know that the state championships are beginning to come into full swing in a bunch of other states. And listen, some of these times, man, are incredible. I have some here on my phone that we're about to go into, and some athletes that I wanted to highlight. These high school kids are incredible, and the win and sometimes the conditions aren't necessarily great, but I think we've seen that in all track and field. But man, it is a sight to behold. FHSAA state title, state championships are at University of Florida. Those are going to be exciting. We're definitely going to recap those. And today we're going to talk about some professional track and field. And is it a good season for college athletes to go ahead and make this world team? We've seen it before in the past, and sometimes, they get tired because this is a very long season, but I don't think that's the case this year. I think they can show up and show out. So let's get started without further ado. Let's get this going. So sticking with high school track and field, I have everything here on my notes right now. It was, like I said, we're to the state championship this week, but it was regional championship action throughout the entire state of Florida. It was 4 days. And let me just say this, man. To all these kids out there, it is God bless you, because it was hot in Florida. It wasn't even in the low 90s. It was in the mid 90s. The humidity was at full capacity, and it was incredible. Like, these meets started at like 3 o'clock. I was like, you have to start these in the morning. That's the way it used to be. Used to start off, regional action at 11 o'clock. You get out of school early. You can wear your sweats to school. And, me being a shot putter, I was one of the first ones out there. Took maybe 1 or 2 classes. You get something to eat, and then you go warm up, and then you're in the competition, and then you can stay or you can go home. The day's over. But man, just you got 4x4s kicking off, close to 10 o'clock. I was like, ugh, that's crazy, at least on the schedule. So I think we need to change that. I definitely think we need to push this meet back for the kids. You got kids coming from all over the state to go to certain locations. They're not getting home till, late. They got to eat dinner and all this stuff. So I think I had to get that off my chest. We really have to do away with the late start in high school, especially when you're having more and more teams there in the region. That was just crazy to me, but I digress. One of the things a few things in addition to that I found incredible is some of these times that were run, we're into a headwind. Like, I'm seeing like -1 point, whatever. And it's crazy to me. And so I'm hoping for great weather up there in Florida. And definitely, if you have a chance to go up to Gainesville, this is going to be an elite meet. I am super pumped about what's going to go down. So let's get started on a few names that I have down here. So Sky Tolbert um, put on in the 100 hurdles, 110 hurdles. Right now, 4th time in the nation, #1 in the state of Florida. That's somebody you need to keep an eye on. That's just something that up there, in Niceville, in that area, they produce incredible athletes. Caroline Wells, she's been mentioned on the show quite a few times. And if you've paid attention to Fan Hub TF, got a chance to write an article on her, and as part of our Making of a Champion series, we actually kicked off with her. But I have to go back and see how many exactly state titles she's won, but it's a lot. And she's in line to win again in the 3200 and the 1600. And I know she's a part of the 4x8 as well. But let me tell you something, right now she has the 7th fastest time in the country. She's committed to Stanford in the 3200. And I'm telling you, she is the real deal. And it's so crazy. If you've paid attention to Florida track and field, you know that when it comes to distance running, we may not be, Texas, California, some of these other states, up there in the Northeast, but Florida has some kids that can run. And specifically in Seminole County on the girls' side. The boys' side, definitely, they produce some all-stars. Last year was Samuel Austin. I think he finished with the #1 time in the 800. If you go on Lactic Acid, podcast, we did an interview with him, my boy Sam, still killing it up there at the University of Florida. But when you look at Seminole County in particular, you're looking at some of the great runners in track and field came from Seminole County and did big things in the state of Florida. For example, we just mentioned Caroline Wells, who's currently running. How about Sinclair Johnson for Lake Brantley? I mean, gosh, she just tore up the track when she was there. And then a name that nobody can forget, Jenny Simpson. At the time, she was Jenny Behringer. Need I say more about her? I mean, it seems like in Seminole County, they put on not just for the state of Florida, but just for in the country when it comes to distance running. So there's always an area to pay attention to. And so Caroline's the next great one. I'm excited to see, what she is going to do. And, I'm excited to see the time that she's going to run. Last year, I definitely think she wants to go out with a bang. So I'm really excited about that, to watch that. You got Amari Turner. Speaking of Seminole County, we're going back to the sprints. Dude is a junior football player, was running, I think he ran 10.5, 10.58. And then Cyrus Ways, he's a hurdler. He's #1 in the state of Florida, 6th in the country. We got some hurdlers down here, y'all. I'm telling you, those were 2 of the performances. We're sticking with the sprints. You got Darren McQueen, 10.48. And class, I want to say it was class 3A. King Mack from St. Thomas Aquinas, who that's a squad right there. They are legit. He dropped the 46.25 in the hurdles. I'm sorry, in the open 400. Zaire Nuridin from Mount Verde, and we're about to touch on them in a second. He dropped the 46. He has the #1 time in the nation, 45.7, and he's a junior. What? I mean, if you saw the previous video, I pretty much was just flabbergasted. That is flabbergasted, excuse me, talking too fast. It's incredible. Like, what are these kids on? Like, back in the day, if you ran a 47, you were the bee's knees. Like 46, yeah, those times. But these kids out here dropping 45 and then running 44 splits in the 4x4, that's crazy, man. That is crazy. It's still hard to fathom, like, how far we have advanced in high school track and field. We talked about Summer Creek when Matt came on the show. Those boys are out there balling. It is crazy how far we've advanced. Micah Larry from Mount Verde, second fastest time in the nation, 10:27 in the headwind. Now, come on, dog. Junior. Come on, man. You've got to come on, man. That's crazy. That just is beyond me. They have just a crazy squad over there. Micah Holland, running 11:31. That was a legal time, and she's a ball player. She's a hooper from Mount Vernon. There's some in the water with these kids, folks. I'm telling you, you better get yourself to Gainesville soon and very soon, because these kids are not playing. And then Reinhardt Harrison, 148, second fastest time in the country, dropped to 148 this past week. That kid is a baller out of bowls. And so we talk about Newberry Park, deservedly so, all-star squad. Just go look them up. If there was a Newberry Park in Florida, Satellite High School, Coach Doug Butler, and Bowles High School, I'm telling you, nobody can say that there's no distance. There's no, it's just sprints and jumps down here. No. There are some ballers out here in the state of Florida. So I'm really looking forward, to the state championship meet. The weather looks like it should hold up and be pretty decent. I think you're going to see some very, very fast times. I don't necessarily think I'm interested to see if Newritten can, lower that 45 time. I obviously want to see, what Caroline can do, in the 3,200 and the mile. And I'm interested to see the 100, because there are some talented 100-meter runners, 200 as well. A lot of football players running really fast times. And so I'm really interested to see kind of pressure moments. Florida is pretty much every track meets pressure, because there's somebody elite there. Nobody is scared in the state of Florida. And so I'm really interested to see just kind of how it all shakes out. And I've seen these meets before. Like, I remember, if you guys are track and field aficionados, about Anthony Schwartz, down at American Heritage, about Tyson Campbell, two fantastic football players. Schwartz went to Auburn to play football and is now a professional football player. I think he plays for the Browns. And, Tyson Campbell, was in the NFL as well. But they had some, like, the number one time in the country for the 4x1. Schwartz was the fastest, ran like a 10:0 something. But got to the state championship, and he lost that one. And that's not to say Schwartz is bad. It's just that on any given day, somebody that you're not expecting could pull away with a W. So I'm wondering what upsets we're going to see. I do think there's going to be a couple, specifically in the sprints. I think the jumps are going to be even, and I think the distance, I think the favorites are going to handle business. But I'm telling you, get yourself to Florida. Get yourself to the University of Florida and see the action that will take place, because it's going to be fun. I just do not know the events yet. I have to decide at least one nation leading time, at least one nation leading time, or a nation leading jump, or something. Because there's some, we didn't get to it, for the sake of time, but trust me, there are some ballers on the field events as well. They're doing big things. I think you're going to come out with at least one. And I'm hoping that the win is even. Like, there's no, some of these times, they ran, it was plus 2.3 or whatever. I hate that. That has been the case in track and field this year, and it stinks, man, because some of these are great times. There was a young man that, runs for New Orleans, 994, and I looked at the win. It was 180. It was like, oh my gosh, man, that is crazy. You hate to see it, especially when people are running new PRs. And it's not as if the win had like an incredible, it's not as if they were running into a hurricane. It's not like it was 4.2 wind, whatever they had out there at Bermuda in the middle of the water. I'm just saying, it's not that bad. It's not going to have too much of an impact. But I definitely hope some of these kids can run those times and win legal settings, because it would be truly a sight to behold. And that's just the standard for high school track, how crazy it is, man. We're just advancing on so many different levels. And it's really fun to see. All right, so let's get to a little professional track and field action. There was a lot of things going on, and so we're gonna do, and I forgot when, within a week or so. But I got a couple friends of mine, Matthew Parker, and then the person who runs track and field news, Brother Waitsman. He's going to come on the show as well, and it's going to be a great time. But I actually did a show with Colin Waitsman. Be sure to follow him because he's doing big things, and he's headed out to Puerto Rico, if I'm not mistaken, to cover track meet, interview the athletes. You'll love that page. It is incredible, the job that he does. I had a hot take. And we're going to talk about it. But he looked at me like I was crazy when I said it. I said, I had two hot takes. I said Ariane Knighton would win gold at Worlds. I'm not looking too stupid now. Hey, shout out to my brother Noah Lyles. Hey, I'm still looking at the anime, man. Had that conversation back at pre. Definitely hope to see him again this year at that event. And I still think it's possible. I will never count out Noah Lyles, but Knighton is different. So I said he was going to win. But then I gave one that he just looked at me like I was crazy, and something happened to the episode with the audio, and so I don't have it anymore. Unfortunately, that's why technology is brutal. I said Shelly-Anne Fraser-Pryce was going to win 100. I'm gonna still roll with that. Everything in me wants to pick Elaine Thompson, and listen, I might chicken out and I might switch to Elaine Thompson. I know that's a cop move. I don't care. That's a cop out. Sure, whatever. Stool pigeon, call me whatever. But Shelly-Anne Fraser-Pryce, that 1067, it's the way that she ran it. It was so easy. It was so relaxed. She was in control the entire race. I'm telling you, man, like the women's sprints, just the sprints in general. I mean, we could talk about the men. We'll get to the men in a second. But man, like, this is must-see TV. This is the beauty of track and field. And this is why we have to elevate and get track and field on the map. Because you can't tell me, you got ESPN, and granted, I really don't watch ESPN on Sundays just because, I'm doing work. Typically I tune in, for college football and college basketball. And occasionally, they throw the, track on there, and I definitely watch those meets, especially with the American League that we have, and NBC, they cover a lot of meets. But you can't tell me if I'm the decision makers at ESPN about what's going to be on TV, that some of these meets, that just took place this past week with the U.S. Not the U.S. Continental Tour, but the meet where all of the athletes showed up, the Continental Tour Gold. That's the hashtag that's being used. I have it up here. World leading time. So you're talking about a world leading time in the women's 3K, a world leading time in the 1500. You got some incredible times in the 800. Second furthest time in the throws. You're looking at the world leading time in the 100. I mean, you cannot look at what's going on and tell me that there's a better value, meaning billiards comes on TV, poker comes on TV. You're trying to tell me that these times, world leading time in the hammer throw, world leading time in the 100, legal 2.0. You're trying to tell me that some of these events and these times and the heat of competition and the drama that ensues, the storylines that come about it would not move the needle? And maybe it's our fault. I mean, maybe it's our fault. I know that I'm doing, my, best on this channel. We're still growing, and I appreciate you guys growing with me. I know, guys like Matthew Parker, the Potts brothers, Aaron and Joshua, T Williams and Real Talk with T. I know over there at Sidious Magazine, they're doing incredible things. And there's just so many, I just mentioned Colin and, Track and Field World News. There's so many people doing our best, but you cannot tell me, even from a high school level, if you could put high school hoops on, there's some incredible high school meets on, incredible performances. I promise you, you can put it on and it would be more impactful than making the Sports Center top 10. But there's no reason, from a billiard standpoint, showing that. And there's nothing against billiards, nothing against bowling, but it just seems like track is so far distant. I look at swimming. You can look at swimming too. Some of the world's best athletes, you look at Katie Ledecky, and then you go over to track, you look at a guy like Fred Curley, who is just doing different events and is just pushing, all boundaries aside, going out and balling out. And it's must-see TV. Nobody is, ducking and dodging races for the most part. Well, that's another show. We're not going to get into the hurdles, but there's just so much great content out there that there's no reason that I should not. If you're the worldwide leader in sports, Fox, you're trying to get, a bigger crowd, and you have like 42 different networks. Put it on the main network, and if it fails, instead of throwing it away, how do we get better? How do we invest? Because there's some people out there that know track and field. RG3, he tweets about track and field all the time. He knows track and field. He knows all about the hurdles. Trust me, RG3 can run. Shannon Sharp. I would love, let's get, instead of, I get, the Tyreek Hill and stuff like that, but there's some stuff going on. Get Chad Ochocinco, who knows about track and field. Let's give him a mic. Let's give him a mic and let's let him, be the funny commentator, just kind of like they give Snoop Dogg a chance. Let him be that guy. There's so many different avenues and different ways that we can build. Obviously, there's legalities, there's so many little nuances that has to be fixed, and I know I'm getting away from the original topic, but I just had to say that because sometimes it just astonishes me how much we're just missing. Like we're missing out. We're settling for a happy meal, excuse me. And I guess that's the best way to put it. You got this incredible product, and it's like a Thanksgiving dinner. You got greens, beans, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, ram, hog, dog, chicken, turkey, right? You name it. Early season, we're going, you name a challenge. You got all that stuff at the table. You got stuff for people who don't eat, the turkey and stuff. You got stuff for the vegans. You got stuff for everybody. There's something for everybody, and that's what track is. Somebody can look at a track meet from the distance to throws to sprints, and there's something for everybody. And that's just like this big Thanksgiving table, but it's like a Happy Meal looks better and it's not as fulfilling. That's how I look at it. I know some other people might look at it differently, but I think there's a disconnect somewhere, and I'll just leave it at that. But Shelly-Anne Fraser-Pryce, I think she can legitimately win the women's 100. we're getting closer to predictions, and I don't think it's a bad thing that you're seeing fast times right now, because the timeline is just pushed up when it comes to worlds. But man, it's hard to really pick, because you don't know who's going to make the team, because I feel like there's going to be some people who are legit that will not make the team. You do not know who is going to be left out. But the ones that will be running, I do think like it's a coin toss. We haven't seen Sha'Carri Richardson. I personally don't think she's going to run this year. I haven't seen her, haven't heard anything about her. Terrence Laird, what about him? Could he be a sleeper? Like, could he be somebody that, comes, in and kind of, continues that dominance? And so there's so many unanswered questions, even from the Jamaican side, Shelly-Anne Fraser-Pryce, Elaine Thompson, who's going to be, that other person. And so while, I did, have that hot take, I think that's part of the beauty of this season. There's, you don't know. You don't know. Let's stick with the sprints real quick. Christian Coleman, 10:09, 1992 in the 200. I don't think he's doing anything in the 200, to be honest with you. But you got Bromell, who, 9.7, and that was as close to legal as you can imagine. But he looked good. Fred Curley, 9.92. Could somebody upset, because we're right now, everybody's thinking Lamont Jacobs. Is he that guy? I'm being honest. I'm starting, my mindset around him is starting to change, because he's just showing up and proving it. Now, he was supposed to race Curly and those boys this past weekend, dipped out. Everybody has a different take on why, but I don't know. Like, I think it's safe to say he's the safest pick. I'll say that. He's the safest pick. But 2 and 3, I don't know. I know a lot of people, thinking Andre DeGrasse, because let me say something about him. He shows up when it's time. Everything else now, but when it's time. And what about, these, some of these runners from, the African countries, the African nations, like, they're showing up. And then it brings me to college. And I know I just mentioned the 100, but this is just multiple events. It brings me to college. I usually, and this will be, the last topic that we'll touch on. And here's the beautiful thing about track talk. It is random. So I just say what's on my mind. It's like the old thing, gather around, I have the story to tell. The college athletes are killing it this year. They are killing it this year. Oh my goodness. But what you see usually, college athletes, they come, they ball out. But, because of a long season, kind of fade out when you get to the big stage. And so it's kind of hard to buy stock when they get to the teams. But we got 2 to 3 things working for us this year. A, let's travel, because you're going to be in Eugene. NCAAs are in Eugene. So, you can have your family come, you can have your coaches. You're more comfortable. You're going to be familiar with the track. I don't know why my nose is itching. It's like allergies, so forgive me for that. Pollen is crazy outside. A lot of them are running fast times, and because Worlds is in July, the middle of July, and not the middle of August, listen, I think that it could be interesting. And so a guy like Matthew Bowen, if he catches fire at NCAAs, and some of these dudes, these kids that's out here breaking all these distance records and the you know the 5K and all that stuff, if those kids catch fire, I'm telling you, all you got to do is maintain it until the middle of July. Abby, from Kentucky, Abby Steiner, you're talking about Hall from Florida, in the pentathlon, who just killed it and is killing it. And it's good to see, last year, bad injury, hated to see it. And now she's coming for people's necks. And so you always love to see stories like that. I think when you're talking about the medal stand, you legitimately have to think about some of these college kids. I may sound crazy, and I understand some of them have been running since January, but it is not out of the rim because there's just such a short turnaround. And so the travel, you can stay in Eugene. Like I said, you're more comfortable. There's just something in me that's like, I cannot pick a medal stand. Well, accurately, it's hard to do anyway because there's always one upset. But I think the college kid, I don't know which one. I don't know which one. And that's the beauty of track and field right now. It's hard to pick because, yes, as great as Abby Steiner looks, the Jamaican women are looking good too. The women of the USA, they're looking good as well. And they're going to show up. They're going to show up just like they always do. And I think it adds to more parity. Of course, I think it makes it more fun. I think even for the men, there's certain events that I'm not necessarily concerned about, meaning I think the sprints are going to be hard to make. I think Matthew Bowen is somebody that can pull off an upset and kind of sneak onto the team, especially the 200, depending on, Noah Lyles, he has an automatic bye. So he's going to Worlds regardless. But if he decides that, I want to get some extra practice in or whatever the case might be, does he even run at USA's? If he doesn't run at USA's, I think that third spot is open. I think one is going to Arian. I think, and it depends on what the field is looking like. I think two, I think you can put Curly in there. And then, three, I don't know. But I do think that it's something that is worth watching because I think, somebody could sneak onto the team and then they could just, who knows? Anything is possible at that point. All you need to do is make it to the party. If you make it to the party, anything is possible. So, those are some of the things that, I'm interested in, that I'm interested in seeing as NCAAs is ramping up. You're talking about the team title, you're talking about Kentucky, you're talking about Texas, you're talking about Florida, certain schools like that. Really looking forward to seeing what these schools do. Like I said, looking forward to the high school level. And then the Prefontaine Classic, man, these fields are loaded. And it is going to make for some fun meets, man. That men's 100, you're talking about the mile, the Bowerman mile. Oh my goodness, man. I love it. Definitely hoping and praying, that I can be there for it. Thankfully, Lactic Acid, we're covered, we got our credentials and everything. And so, if I'm there, you're going to get some good content on this channel. I can promise you that. But we're going to end track talk. That's enough talk, random talk for this week. If you guys have any things you want me to talk about, if there's anything that you want to hear from our guest, let me know. We'll definitely, add that into the conversation. Just released an episode with Liz Galito on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all that. Please be sure to check this out. Check that out. You can check this out on FanHub TF. We're going to be posting that link, and then all over social media. And then follow us on social media: Twitter, Lactic Acid _pod, Instagram, Lactic Acid Podcast. Definitely YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Hit that like button. Subscribe. Leave a comment. Really, really, really would appreciate it. Until next time, wish you love, peace, and some chicken grease. Good night, everybody.